The call came from the ex-boyfriend I'd broken up with 3 years ago. I was telling the vendor lady which tomatoes to pick. I like the big ones. There was a long silence on the other end, then a trembling voice. So, back then, you thought I wasn't big enough? It was the weekend. I was squeezed in front of the tomato stall, going back and forth with the vendor lady. Ma'am, yes, that one, the biggest one. I like the big ones. I pointed, selecting them like a general drafting soldiers, wishing I could just reach in myself and swap out the slightly more slender reserve players in the basket. Just then, my phone rudely rang. It was an unknown number. I tilted my head, clamping the phone between my shoulder and cheek, my hands still rummaging through the tomatoes. Hello, who is this? Only a faint static came from the other end. Hello? Can you hear me? The market was too noisy, so I raised my voice. Speak up. The lady cheerfully handed over a heavy, solidly red tomato. I stuffed it into my shopping bag with satisfaction, casually emphasizing my point once more. Right, I just love these big ones. I was about to thank her when, from the receiver that had been dead silent for a full half-minute, a highly suppressed reply, tinged with a noticeable tremor, finally came. So, back then, you thought I wasn't big enough? It was Shinyu. My mind went blank in an instant. The surrounding din of the market, the shoppers' voices, the blare of promotional loudspeakers, it all faded away, leaving only his heavy breathing from the receiver and my own heart pounding like a drum. 3 years. His voice had lost its youthful clarity, taking on the deep, gravelly tone of a mature man, but I still recognized it instantly. An untimely pang of bitterness instantly welled up inside me. I wanted to explain, to say it's not what you think, I'm just picking tomatoes. But the words died on my lips, turning into a stiff silence. I froze on the spot, even forgetting to take another tomato the lady handed me. What did he mean by that? Big or not big? I was just talking about tomatoes. I subconsciously looked down at my shopping cart. In the bag, the jumbo tomatoes I had just so carefully selected were proudly puffing out their round bodies, as if silently corroborating something. A rush of blood shot to my head, my cheeks growing hot enough to fry an egg. This misunderstanding was just too absurd. No, my tongue was tied. I wanted to explain but didn't know where to begin. Was I supposed to just say, look, you've misunderstood. I was picking tomatoes, not judging you. I took a deep breath. The murky market air filled my lungs, calming me down a little. In the end, I said nothing and silently ended the call. I clutched my phone, standing in the bustling market, and stared at the big, red, carefully chosen tomatoes in the plastic bag. Suddenly, they felt a bit hot to handle. I mechanically paid and walked home, the setting sun stretching my shadow long behind me. My mind was a mess. Why would he suddenly call me? And from a new local number? That baffling question, what on earth was that fool thinking? I shook my head, trying to cast these thoughts aside. It's all in the past. My name is Yi Tang. At 23, my life was like a punctured balloon, rapidly deflating. My family's fortune collapsed. My parents fled abroad, leaving me alone to face massive debts and the harsh realities of the world. The friends who once surrounded me scattered like birds and beasts. Even Shinyu, the lover who had once been so passionately devoted to me, swearing he would marry no one else, had been pushed away by me in the most resolute manner 2 years prior. I was the one who initiated the breakup. The reason was cliché and heart-wrenching. You can't give me the life I want. I remember his eyes were red as he gripped my hand tightly. Shinyu, don't be naive. Your family is bankrupt. You probably won't even be able to afford a single bag from my current walk-in closet in the future. Those words were like a knife, not only piercing through all his pride but also cutting off all my own paths of retreat. 3 years have passed. I've fallen from the pampered eldest daughter of the Yi family to an ordinary working-class person, pinching pennies for every meal. Of that bag of large tomatoes, I only ended up eating 2. The rest sat in the refrigerator, gradually losing their luster, their skins beginning to wrinkle. I spent the weekend in a daze. That night, as if possessed, I opened the encrypted photo album I hadn't touched in 3 years. The password was our anniversary. I can't believe I still remembered. In the album, the photos flipped by one. A blurry, candid shot of Shinyu's serious profile in the library, a goofy selfie of us squeezed together under a cherry blossom tree the moment he ran towards me, drenched in sweat and smiling after a basketball game, him tucking my cold hands into his down jacket pocket on a winter night. The innocent, passionate, sweet memories of the past rushed in like a tide, instantly drowning me. The photos finally stopped on a group picture taken at the seaside during our graduation trip. The setting sun dyed the sea golden. He was hugging me from behind, his chin resting on the top of my head, and we were both smiling so wide our eyes were barely visible. Back then, I thought we would walk on like this forever. My eyes started to burn. I slammed the album shut, a heavy tightness in my chest. I never expected to see Shinyu again so soon. A week later, I was working part-time as a temporary waitress at a high-end business reception. This kind of occasion, once my familiar playground, now saw me in an ill-fitting uniform, carefully navigating through the glamorous crowd with a tray of champagne, terrified of bumping into someone I couldn't afford to offend. Well, who do we have here? Isn't it our dear Missy? A coquettish female voice, laced with obvious malice, rang out. I looked up, and my heart sank. It was Lin Wei, one of the best friends who used to follow me around like a lapdog before my family's downfall. Now, she was arm in arm with a pot-bellied executive, glittering with jewelry, looking at me with undisguised schadenfreude. What's this? The Yi family went bankrupt, so our young Miss Yi has to work as a waitress? Lin Wei's voice wasn't too loud, just enough for a small circle of people to hear. Instantly, several curious and disdainful gazes fell on me. I clenched my tray, forcing a professional smile onto my face. Miss Lin, would you like some champagne? Champagne? Lin Wei scoffed, lightly stroking my tray with her fingers painted with bright red nail polish. I wouldn't dare drink wine you've served, who knows if I'd catch some poverty germs. A few stifled chuckles rippled through the crowd. Humiliation washed over me like a tide. I bit down hard on my lower lip, almost drawing blood. I knew I couldn't retort, couldn't get angry. This part-time job's salary was important to me. Why aren't you saying anything? Weren't you quite the talker before? Lin Wei became even more smug, taking a step forward, pretending to slip, and bumping into me. I instinctively wanted to dodge, but it was too late. I watched as the scarlet wine in her hand was about to spill all over my snow-white shirt. A hand with distinct knuckles suddenly reached out, steadily supporting Lin Wei's arm. Miss Lin, be careful. The man's voice was deep and pleasant, carrying an undeniable authority. I looked up sharply, meeting a pair of bottomless, inky black eyes. Shinyu. President Shen. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit, tall and straight, with a cold and stern aura. He steadied Lin Wei, his gaze sweeping over me indifferently. Seeing Shinyu, Lin Wei immediately put on a shy expression. President Shen, thank you, if it weren't for you, I would have almost fallen. As she spoke, she leaned against Shinyu, almost touching him. Shinyu withdrew his hand without a trace. Just a small favor. He didn't look at me again, turning to walk towards the center of the venue, surrounded by a crowd. Lin Wei glared at me fiercely, warning in a low voice. Consider yourself lucky. I stood frozen in place, the tray in my hand almost too heavy to hold. There were no wine stains on my shirt, but my heart was cold and trembling. Is this what a reunion is like? Shinyu. After the cocktail party ended, I dragged my tired body to the locker room to change clothes. Just as I walked out of the hotel's back door, ready to catch the last subway, a black Maybach silently glided to my side and stopped. The car window lowered, revealing Shinyu's expressionless profile. Get in the car. His voice was devoid of any inflection, an order rather than an invitation. I stood still. President Shen, we're not going the same way. He finally turned his head, a smile devoid of amusement tugging at the corner of his lips. Yi Tang, 2 years apart, you haven't improved in other aspects, but you've certainly grown more backbone. Or are you playing a game of hard to get? His words were like poisoned needles, stabbing my heart with a dense, prickling pain. What exactly do you want? I raised my head, forcing myself to meet his gaze. What do I want? He chuckled, pushing open the car door and stepping out. His tall figure instantly brought a strong sense of aggression, engulfing me in his shadow. Yi Tang, it's been 2 years. Don't you owe me an explanation? An explanation for what? I subconsciously took a step back, my back pressed against the cold wall. An explanation for why I dumped you back then? Xinyu, isn't the truth just as you saw it? I was a gold digger. Back then, seeing that your family was in trouble and mine was about to fail, I quickly found a reason to kick you to the curb and find someone richer. Is that so hard to understand? I repeated the words that had hurt him back then. It was like repeatedly cutting open an old wound with a knife, aching with shivers, yet with a masochistic pleasure. Shin Yu's face became extremely ugly in the dim light. He suddenly reached out, bracing his hand on the wall beside my ear, trapping me between him and the wall. We were so close that I could smell the clean scent of his men's cologne, mixed with a faint hint of tobacco. This was a foreign scent, belonging to the successful businessman Shin Yu of today. No longer the clean scent of soap from the boy in my memory. A gold digger? He lowered his head, his burning breath on my forehead, his voice extremely low. So, what about now? Now that this poor boy seems to be doing quite well? Miss Yi, are you disappointed? I turned my head away, avoiding his intimidating gaze. The Shin Yu of the past would run across half the city on a winter night just to buy me a bowl of hot wontons, would stay up all night telling me stories when I said I was afraid of the dark, would patiently coax me when I threw tantrums, saying, "Tang Tang, my Tang Tang, I love you no matter what." But the Shin Yu of today was slowly and methodically cutting away at my last shreds of self-esteem. Yes, I'm very disappointed. I heard my own hoarse voice. Shin Yu stared at me for a long while, then suddenly laughed. Yi Tang, we're not done. After he said that, he let go of me, turned around, and got into the car. The Maybach roared and sped away, leaving me alone in the cold night wind, shivering. I thought Shin Yu's not done meant a more cruel revenge. Sure enough, a few days later, the formal job I had finally found went wrong. A project I was in charge of, which was originally a sure thing, was intercepted by a competitor at the last minute. And the company that intercepted it was Shin Yuan Group, controlled by Shin Yu. My manager called me into his office, berated me fiercely, and finally said coldly, "Yi Tang, this company doesn't support idlers. If you can't get that project back, you can write your own resignation letter." I walked out of the office in a daze. I didn't even have to think to know who was behind this. That evening, I received a call from an unknown woman. She introduced herself as Shin Yu's secretary and said that Mr. Shin wanted to see me. The location was a high-end private club. I knew it was a trap, but I had no choice. I needed this job. I needed money. When I arrived at the private room in the club, Shin Yu wasn't alone. Lin Wei was there, along with several men who looked like business partners. Lin Wei was practically clinging to Shin Yu. When she saw me enter, a flash of triumph and provocation crossed her eyes. Shin Yu sat in the main seat, leaning lazily against the sofa, swirling a glass of red wine. He merely glanced up when he saw me. "Miss Yi is here? Have a seat." I stood awkwardly at the door. "Mr. Shen, you wanted to see me about something?" I tried my best to keep my voice steady. "It's nothing major." Shin Yu took a sip of wine, his gaze sweeping over me. "I heard you've run into some trouble at work recently. As it happens, Lin Wei's family has a project and is looking for a partner. I thought you two could talk." Lin Wei immediately chimed in, her tone coquettish. "That's right, Tang Tang. Even though your family is not what it used to be, for old time's sake, I'll definitely help where I can." But her tone shifted. This partnership will depend on your sincerity. I understood. This was a show put on by Shin Yu and Lin Wei. He had pushed me into a desperate situation, only to have Lin Wei offer a so-called olive branch. Their goal was to make me bow my head, to make me beg like a dog. Thank you for your kind offer, Miss Lin, but... I took a deep breath. Our company is small. I'm afraid we're not worthy. Shin Yu's eyes instantly turned cold. But Lin Wei just smiled. Tang Tang, don't be so stubborn. Look at the life you're living now. I heard your apartment lease is almost up, isn't it? What's the point? All you have to do is bow your head to Mr. Shen, show a little submission, and as for what happened in the past. What happened in the past is in the past. I cut her off, my gaze fixed directly on Shin Yu. Mr. Shen, if you have no other business to discuss, I'll be leaving now. With that, I turned to leave. Stop. Shin Yu's voice carried an authority that could not be questioned. I froze. He set down his wine glass, stood up, and walked toward me step by step. The overwhelming pressure made it almost impossible for me to breathe. Yi Tang, are you really that proud? He lowered his head. Or are you betting that I'll still have a soft spot for you? His breath fanned across my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. I'm not betting anything. It's not up to you. He sneered and suddenly raised his voice. Since Miss Yi looks down on the Lin family's project, then forget it. However, my Xinyuan group has a charity project that needs a gopher. I think Miss Yi is quite suitable. Report for duty tomorrow. Lin Wei's face instantly turned ugly. I was stunned. A charity project? A gopher? What new way was this to humiliate me? Shin Yu, you. What, you're not willing? He raised an eyebrow. Or would you rather go serve Lin Wei? In the end, I lost. Fine, I'll go. My days in the Xinyuan Group's charity project department were not easy. On paper, I was a project assistant, but in reality, I did all the menial tasks like serving tea, making copies, and running errands. My colleagues looked at me with mixed expressions. No one dared to get close to me. Shin Yu seemed very busy and didn't often come to this peripheral department. But every time he did, it was accompanied by a tense atmosphere and my own embarrassment. He would, in front of everyone, criticize the coffee I made for being too hot or too cold, accuse me of not formatting documents beautifully enough, and once, because I was 5 minutes late delivering a file, he said with a cold face, Yi Tang, drop your heiress attitude. No one here will indulge you. Each time, I accepted it silently, without defending myself, without resisting. I knew this was what he wanted. He brought me back to retaliate for my betrayal back then, to make me taste what it's like to be at someone's mercy. After a project's outdoor event. It was pouring rain. To protect the event materials, I got soaked to the bone, a complete mess. After the event, my colleagues all had cars and left one by one. I was the only one standing by the roadside waiting for the rain to stop, my lips purple from the cold. Shin Yu's car stopped in front of me. He rolled down the window, his tone still harsh. Get in. I hesitated for a moment, but still opened the car door and got in. The heat in the car was turned up high, and my frozen body warmed up a little. The ride was silent. As we neared my rundown neighborhood, I thanked him in a low voice and prepared to get out. But Shin Yu suddenly spoke, You live in a place like this? His tone was laced with clear disdain. What do you expect? Where does CEO Shen think I should be living now? A luxury apartment? I'm lucky to have a roof over my head. Lu Chen was taken aback for a second, his brows furrowing. You. All the pent-up grievances suddenly poured out. Yes. I deserve it. I brought it all on myself. I cut him off, tears streaming down my face uncontrollably. I never should have treated you like that back then. But can you just give me a quick end? Either make me disappear completely, or stop torturing me like this. Is it that interesting watching me struggle before you like a clown? After shouting, I pushed open the car door, dashed into the rain, and ran home without looking back. After that day, I called in sick and shut myself in at home for 3 days. I was afraid to face Shinyu. On the 4th day, I had to go back to work. I found that my department colleagues looked at me strangely. There was less of their previous disdain, and a bit more pity. At noon, Sister Wang, the kindest person in the department, quietly pulled me aside. "Little Yi, a few days ago, did you perhaps misunderstand President Shen?" I froze. Sister Wang sighed. After the event ended that day, it was raining so hard. "President Shen actually came back specifically to pick you up. He saw you standing there alone and looked very concerned. After you lost your temper and ran off, President Shen stayed put for a long time. He even called HR to specially approve 3 days of paid sick leave for you, saying you were unwell and needed to rest." I was completely stunned. He was concerned about me? That afternoon, Shinyu came to the department for a meeting. After the meeting, he walked to my desk, put down a file folder, his tone still as businesslike and cold as ever. "Take a look at this project file. I want a preliminary proposal by tomorrow." He turned to leave after he finished speaking. "Shinyu." I summoned my courage and called out to him. He paused but didn't turn around. "Thank you." His back stiffened for a moment, then, without a word, he strode away. Clearing up the misunderstanding was like tossing a small pebble into the frozen lake of my heart, creating faint ripples. I began to vaguely feel that behind Shinyu's revenge, perhaps it wasn't all hatred. Our relationship also seemed to have eased somewhat. A month later, Lin Wei began appearing frequently at Shinyuan Group, as a representative of a partner company. She always found various reasons to get close to Shinyu, and for some unknown reason, Shinyu never seemed to explicitly reject her. Rumors began to circulate in the company that Shinyu and Lin Wei were about to be engaged. My heart ached with bitterness. I told myself, isn't this perfect? Well-matched families, a handsome man and a beautiful woman. Yi Tang, what are you still hoping for? That day, because of an issue with a document, I needed to go to the president's office to get Shinyu's signature. As I reached the office door, which was ajar, I heard Lin Wei's sweet, coquettish voice from inside. "Brother Yu, my dad said that for that project, as long as our two families join forces, it's a sure profit. Besides, if we were to, wouldn't that make us even closer?" My feet were nailed to the spot, my heart stopping in my chest. Then, I heard Shinyu's voice, "I'll consider the matter of the project." "Then what about you and me?" Lin Wei pressed on. There was a moment of silence from inside. Just when I thought Shinyu would refuse, he spoke. Wei, give me some time." "Vivi?" He called her Vivi. I turned and fled. It turned out I had been overthinking everything. After that day, I completely abandoned all my unrealistic fantasies and became even more distant and polite towards Shinyu. He seemed to notice the change in me. His gaze grew darker by the day, and the heavy atmosphere surrounding him nearly suffocated the entire project department. Late at night, I worked overtime organizing documents and it was already past midnight when I left the company. As I reached the ground floor, I saw Shinyu's car parked there. He was leaning against the car door, a cigarette between his fingers, smoke curling around him. He saw me, stubbed out his cigarette, and walked straight over. "Get in, I'll give you a ride." "No need, Mr. Shen. I'll take a taxi." "Yi Tang." He cut me off, his voice laced with suppressed anger. "What tantrum are you throwing now?" I found it both laughable and heartbreaking. "I'm not throwing a tantrum. Mr. Shen, I've just come to terms with my place. Rest assured, I'll do my job properly and won't get in the way of you and Miss Lin." Shinyu froze, his brows tightly furrowed. "Me and Lin Wei? What Wei?" "The marriage alliance." I forced a smile that was uglier than a grimace. "Isn't it happening soon?" "Congratulations, Mr. Shen." Shinyu stared at me for a long moment. Suddenly, as if he understood something, the gloom in his eyes gradually dissipated, and a faint curve appeared on his lips. Yi Tang. He took a step forward. Are you jealous? I am not. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, I immediately denied it, but my cheeks burned uncontrollably. In the office that day, Lin Wei was trying to force a marriage. For once, Shen Yu spoke in an almost explanatory tone. Her father indeed wants to use the project to tie me down. What I said then was just a temporary measure to avoid making a scene in the office. I was stunned and looked up at him. His gaze was serious, he didn't seem to be lying. Then, you called her Vivi. I couldn't help but ask sourly. The amusement in Shen Yu's eyes deepened. What else? Shout her full name in front of the secretary? Yi Tang, it's been 3 years, and you've gotten dumber. He paused, his voice low and seductive. Besides, if I had wanted anything with her, I wouldn't have, 3 years ago. He didn't finish his sentence, but my heart was already pounding wildly. 3 years ago, right after my family's troubles began, the Lin family had also extended an olive branch, but Shen Yu had rejected it. I only found this out later. After that late-night explanation, the relationship between Shen Yu and me underwent a subtle but complete transformation. He no longer intentionally made things difficult for me. He would even discreetly offer guidance when I encountered problems at work. His gaze, though still deep and hard to read, seemed to be shedding its icy layer, occasionally revealing a familiar tenderness that belonged to the Shen Yu of the past. It was as if we were caught in a tacit, mutual dance of push and pull. He no longer brought up the past, and I no longer resisted with sharp words. The non-profit project we were working on together progressed smoothly, and our collaboration became increasingly seamless. But in my heart, a thorn remained, the truth about our breakup 3 years ago. I owed him a real explanation. The opportunity came one night after working late. The project was a resounding success, and the department went out for a celebratory dinner. Everyone drank quite a bit. As the boss, Shen Yu naturally attended as well. He took a few drinks from me, but he himself seemed a bit tipsy. After the dinner, he insisted on driving me home. When the car pulled up downstairs from my apartment, I thanked him softly and prepared to get out. But he suddenly grabbed my wrist. His palm was burning hot. Tang Tang. He called my name in a low voice, tinged with a post-drinking hoarseness. Let's talk. My heart leaped. This was the first time in 3 years he had called me by my given name without my surname. The atmosphere inside the car became ambiguous and tense. Talk about what? About 3 years ago. He turned his head, his deep gaze locking onto me. Tell me, what was the real reason back then? Was it really just because my family went bankrupt, and you felt I wasn't good enough for you anymore? Perhaps the alcohol gave me courage, or perhaps it was the vulnerability in his eyes that shattered my final defenses. Tears slid down my face without warning. I shook my head, my voice choked with sobs. No, it was never that. I took a deep breath and finally revealed the secret I had buried for 3 years. Back then, when your family had their accident, my parents were afraid of being implicated and forced me to break up with you. I refused, so they used you to threaten me. They said if I didn't leave you, they would use their connections to make things even harder for your father inside and ensure you'd never get back on your feet. Shen Yu's body jolted, his grip on my wrist tightening. Later, my family went bankrupt too. At that time, I truly had no other choice, Shen Yu. I could only push you away in the most hurtful way possible. I thought it was for your own good. I thought if you hated me, you would forget me and could focus on building your career without any burdens. I couldn't continue, the pent-up grievances, sorrow, and pain of 3 years bursting forth at that moment. Shen Yu was silent for a very, very long time. Then, he gently pulled me into his embrace. His hug was broad and warm, with a scent that put me at ease. I'm sorry, Tang Tang, I'm so sorry. He murmured into my ear, his voice incredibly hoarse. His arms tightened around me. These past 3 years, I worked desperately hard to get to where I am today, all because I wanted to stand before you one day and ask you why, and I wanted to make you regret it, but every time I saw you upset, I was the one whose heart ached. So, all that so-called revenge and torment. It was just his clumsy attempt to get my attention, another expression of a love he couldn't let go of. All the misunderstandings, suspicions, bitterness, and the push and pull between us finally vanished at this moment. I cried uncontrollably in his arms. After a long while, he loosened his hold on me slightly, gently wiping away my tears with his fingers. His gaze was tender and firm in a way I had never seen before. Tang Tang, it's all in the past. From now on, let me protect you. No one will ever separate us again. He lowered his head, his nose brushing against mine, a hint of Shin Yu's signature roguish charm in his tone. Now, can you answer my other question? What? Besides tomatoes. He chuckled softly, his warm breath brushing against my lips. What do you like now? For instance, the one right in front of you, who's gotten quite a bit bigger than before? My face instantly turned beet red. I was so embarrassed I wanted to hide, but he held me firmly in his arms. You rogue. Only for you. He murmured, finally leaning in to kiss me. This kiss carried the saltiness of tears and the sweetness of having found what was lost. It was more like a solemn promise, slowly making up for the 3 years we had missed. I only found out later that the reason he called me while I was picking tomatoes was because he finally had the confidence to stand before me, only to happen to overhear the words that made him misunderstand and his heart tremble. And all these coincidences, through a series of mix-ups, became the red thread that reconnected us. In the end, on every sunny weekend morning, we would go to the supermarket together. He would push the shopping cart, patiently accompanying me as I lingered in the produce section. Then, just as I reached for the biggest tomato, he would embrace me from behind and whisper with a soft laugh in my ear. Looks like my wife has always been very particular about her preference for big things. And I would blush, reaching back to give him a light pinch. Perhaps this is life, and this is our tomato-flavored love story. Shin Yu's extra, tomatoes, a rainy night, and what was lost and found. I saw her. In a corner of the banquet hall, she was wearing an ill-fitting waitress uniform, holding a tray, like a frightened sparrow that had wandered into a flock of cranes. Yi Tang. It had been 3 years. The name echoed in my mind with a rusty hatred and a bone-deep longing that even I was unwilling to admit. She had lost weight. Her once slightly chubby cheeks had thinned, her jawline becoming sharp and defined. It made her eyes look even larger, but they had lost their former vibrant sparkle, leaving only a careful exhaustion and quiet forbearance. She shouldn't be in a place like this. Or rather, she shouldn't appear in this manner. The Yi Tang in my memory should be the center of attention, wearing a couture gown, smiling brightly and boldly under the spotlight, not like now, cornered by someone like Lin Wei and being humiliated in the most clumsy way. Lin Wei's sharp voice was like nails on a chalkboard. I wouldn't dare drink any wine you've handled. Who knows if it's been tainted by some kind of poverty. A nameless rage mixed with a sharp ache shot through my heart. I almost lost control and strode over to throw that shrill woman out. But I didn't. I forced myself to stand still, watching coldly from the side. I wanted to see how the Yi Tang of 3 years later would handle this. Would she fight back proudly, like she used to, or had life worn away all her sharp edges? She just kept her head down, biting her lip hard, and said softly, "Miss Lin, would you like some champagne?" At that moment, my heart felt like something had viciously squeezed it. A bitter pang, anger, and an indescribable sense of disappointment. Yi Tang, where are your claws? Where did that ruthlessness you showed me back then go? Just as Lin Wei pretended to stumble, intending to splash wine on her, my body reacted before my mind could. I took a step forward and steadied Lin Wei's arm. Careful, Miss Lin. But my gaze uncontrollably fell upon her. She looked up at me, a flicker of shock in her eyes, followed by a deeper sense of humiliation and detachment. Good. Yi Tang. It seems you still remember me. I met her gaze with my most formal, most frigid expression, as if she were just an insignificant stranger. I had to build a high wall with this indifference to shut out the tumultuous emotions churning within me. I was afraid that one more glance would expose the vulnerability I had desperately tried to conceal for the past 3 years. I turned and walked away, my back ramrod straight. I could feel her gaze on my back like a physical weight, but I didn't turn around. Yi Tang, this is just the beginning. I will never forget that rainy night 3 years ago. She stood downstairs from my apartment, rain soaking her hair and clothes. She paid it no mind, simply speaking in an airy tone that sends a chill through my heart even when I recall it today. Xinyu, don't be so naive. Your family is bankrupt. You probably won't even be able to afford a single one of the bags in my closet now. In that moment, my world collapsed. The love I cherished, the future I had planned in the face of her so-called reality, they were nothing but a pathetic joke. Hatred was the fuel that got me through those 3 most difficult years. I swore I would climb back to a height she could never reach, and then I would make her regret it. But when she actually reappeared, in such a wretched state before me, the satisfaction I had anticipated never came. In its place were far more complicated emotions. Especially that day. On some strange impulse, I dialed that number and heard her commanding someone in that familiar, slightly petulant tone, "I like the big one." In that instant, the resentment, the sense of being wronged, and the love that had never been extinguished, all pent up for 3 years, completely consumed me. So, I got her out of her work troubles, then pulled some strings to force her to my side. I can't say for sure what I want to do. Do I want revenge, to see her bow her head, or do I just want a legitimate reason to be able to look at her? I kept her right under my nose and treated her with the harshest attitude possible. I criticized the coffee she made and pointed out her mistakes at work. I wanted to provoke her, to see any emotion from her other than forbearance. I wanted to tear apart her calm facade, just as she had torn my heart to shreds back then. But every time I saw her silently enduring it, her eyes red as she stubbornly fought back tears, I was always the one whose heart ached first, the one who grew frustrated first. It rained during that charity event. After I finished my urgent business, I immediately had the driver turn back. Seeing her standing alone in the rain, so frail she looked like she could be blown away by the wind at any moment, my heart twisted into a knot. I asked her to get in the car, but she was like a porcupine, striking back at me with words I'd never heard from her before. Crying, she asked if I found it amusing to watch her struggle. At that moment, I almost blurted it out. No, Tang, I don't find it amusing at all. When I see you upset, it hurts here. I pointed to my heart more than the day you dumped me. But I didn't. My pride wouldn't allow me to show weakness. I could only disguise it with an even colder, harder attitude. Until she rushed into the rain, her determined back overlapping with the image from 3 years ago. I sat in the car for a long time, smoking one cigarette after another. In the end, I just called HR and approved her leave. I admitted defeat. Between hating her and loving her more, I never had a choice. Lin Wei's appearance was an accident, and also a test. I admit, I had my intentions. I wanted to see Tang's reaction. When she stood at the office door, hearing Lin Wei's ambiguous words and my non-committal replies, I clearly saw the color drain from her face and the hurt in her eyes. A shameful sense of pleasure actually rose in my heart. "See, Yi Tang, do you care too?" But when she subsequently became even more distant, congratulating me on my impending good news in that polite and cold tone, that little bit of pleasure was instantly replaced by immense panic and regret. Damn it. She actually believed it. That night, I waited for her downstairs at the company until the early hours of the morning. I had to explain things clearly. I couldn't stand the look in her eyes that pushed me further away. When she, full of jealousy, tartly brought up me calling Lin Wei, I almost couldn't hold back a laugh. So this is what she looks like when she's jealous, so cute. The gloom that had built up for 3 years seemed to have a crack blown through it by that sentence. I looked at her reddened cheeks, her flustered eyes, and a corner of my heart softened completely. So, she still cared about me. This realization made me more exultant than any business success. And when she finally cried and told me the truth about our breakup 3 years ago, all my hatred, all my resentment, instantly crumbled, leaving only overwhelming heartache and remorse. I'm such an asshole. I actually let her bear so much all by herself. I actually used the method I hated most to hurt her in return when she was at her lowest. I held her tightly in my arms, feeling her tremble, her tears soaking my shirt. That heat seared my heart with a sharp pain. I'm sorry, Tang Tang, I'm so sorry. I apologized over and over, wishing I could go back 3 years, hold the her who was also heartbroken on a rainy night, and tell her that I was there for everything. All that damn pride, that revenge, in the face of having her back after losing her, none of it was worth mentioning. I finally understood that all my struggles and waiting over these years weren't to prove her wrong, but to have the strength to be her support when she needed it, and to never again let anyone or anything take her away from me. The moment I kissed her, I tasted the saltiness of tears, and also the ultimate sweetness that fate had given back to me. Yi Tang, my Tang Tang. Thankfully, it wasn't too late for us. Thankfully, you came back to my side.